as a kid, that's what you dream of, play against the best of the best with the whole world watching.
It's that extra motivation to be up there one day.
Oh, crossover, pull up for the win! Oh, my God!
Oh, and so on, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah, baby.
Oh, how does he do it?
Just throw it off the glass. The flush! Look out below!
That's a man's jam!
How did we get here already? Opening night right on our doorstep. This is the Nothing But Net NBA season preview brought to you by Hungry Jack's. The burgers are better at Hungry Jack's. Kane Pitman alongside Ryan Broekhoff, as I am going to be all season long here on ESPN. And we're not going to do it alone, though. We've got Windhorst, we've got Tim Bontemps, and they're going to help us navigate all the big storylines while Ryan gives the insight. And you know, I am a little concerned. I'm hoping this show goes well because I don't want you to make a comeback anymore. I want you to stick in the media and stick with us. So let's hope for the best. Are you feeling ready to be full-time media and give away the on-court stuff?
Happily. My body's telling me happily. Sit behind this desk, let's talk basketball, let's have some fun, but no more running around for me.
Well, I like it, and we've got plenty of storylines to work our way through on this show. But where else could we start? It's got to be the champs, the Boston Celtics. They're looking to change a recent trend in the league. The last 6 titles, they've been handed out to 6 different franchises. Boston dominant last year, but now a new chapter begins. As for the Dallas Mavericks, their championship pursuit took a major step last year in reaching the NBA Finals. The Luka and Kyrie partnership, that's entering Season 3. Ryan Broekhoff, he's been inside that locker room. He's got the insight you need on the Mavs looking to get over the hump. And then there's this guy, Victor Wembanyama. 1 season in the league, 20 points and 10 rebounds on average as a rookie. He led the league in blocks per game. He finished 2nd in Defensive Player of the Year voting. How far can Wemby take the Spurs in year 2? And by the way, speaking of year 2, the OKC Thunder, they're entering year 2 as a legitimate threat in the Western Conference, the number 1 seed last year. They've added key rotation pieces that they believe can help them navigate the postseason gauntlet. So that's some of the top storylines we've got across the NBA. Plenty more we're going to get to on this show, from looking at the Aussies specifically and Ryan's top 5 MVP candidates. By the way, you don't want to miss that. But let's start with the Celtics. I think it's fitting that we start with the defending champions. They were so dominant last year. And I think when everyone just looks at them and says, okay, the Celtics are going to run away with the Eastern Conference, it's not as easy as it sounds on paper or looks on paper.
No, absolutely not. They do bring back the core, the nucleus. There's not a lot of changes to that roster, which bodes well for them. But obviously there's the Porzingis injury to start the season. How do they manage that? Horford's a year older. They're looking a bit thin in the bigs. But when you got Tatum and you got Brown, you're going to be pretty good, as well as the auxiliary pieces that fit that roster so well.
Yeah, they were 64-18 last season in the regular season. They only lost 3 games in the postseason. They had a +11 net rating, so this was a dominant squad. The Porzingis injury note is interesting, though, particularly because of Al Horford, because I think if we went back to the start of last season, everyone said, okay, well, we love your top 5, your top 6, but you've got no depth. But now you look at guys like Pritchard and Hauser and Cornette, who's probably going to be asked to play more minutes, and they just stepped up, even in the postseason. So this team now not only has the stars, but it looks like they've got the depth.
They do, and it's just a well-oiled machine. The way that they play offense, their motion, their movement, they're looking to shoot threes, and they've got a bunch of three-point shooters to fill any roles. You got Holiday, who's elite defensively. You got Derek White forming what could be the best backcourt defensive duo in the league again. But then you've got these other pieces that are stepping up. They fill their roles, they find their spots, and together, collectively, they play together as a team, and it's always fun to watch.
All right, well, you told me before this show started, keep it brief on the Celtics because we want to get to the Dallas Mavericks. You spent 2 seasons with this team. You know a number of the players in the locker room. And this was a team last year that after the trade deadline on the road to the postseason, they found something. They started to play defense, but now coming back in with the expectations that they can get to the NBA Finals. What do you see with this team?
Yeah, a bit of a surprise in the Western Conference for them to go on that run and make the Finals. Obviously led by Luka and Kyrie. Luka and MVP favourites, or one or two.
Oh, well, that's a spoiler. That's a spoiler alert for later in the show.
But one of the most dynamic scorers, unguardable. If he stays healthy, Kyrie continues to blossom. And they've added some pieces that I think will help round out their game. But does Klay Thompson still have it? Is he the missing piece, the outside shooting that they've been lacking over the last few seasons.
Yeah, so here's the question I've got for you then. You're our resident shooter. I'm not going to claim that title. No one would believe me either way. But Klay Thompson, so I think it's a fair question. Maybe it's not prime Klay, but still last year he shot 39% on his 205 tightly contested threes. And now you're playing with Luka. What does that look like as a shooter when you're playing with Luka Doncic now for Klay? Certainly the offense looks scary on paper.
Yeah, hopefully better than his last preseason game where he went 0 for 9, but that was without Luka. And
that
Luka's,
happens, doesn't it?
Yes. It does. But playing with Luka, he's going to create so many easy shots for Klay. As a shooter, you don't lose the shooting touch. He's going to be there. He's going to be aggressive. He's got the quick trigger. He's still got it. And I'm just excited to see how he fits within this offense and how they're going to use his spacing to open things up for Kyrie and for Luka.
Geez, it still looks weird though, doesn't it, when you look at Klay Thompson there in the Mavericks uniform. That's going to take a while. But the defense though, because I mentioned they made the trades and they brought in Gafford and PJ Washington, and that changed things. But now you have Luka, Kyrie, Klay Thompson, and yeah, they traded out our guy, Josh Green, who was there for that defensive purpose. So my concern with this team all along has been the defense. Do you see enough perimeter defense with this team? Don't forget, they also lost Derek Jones Jr., who was an important piece. Yeah,
it's going to be the question mark all season, and we won't really know until games get started and we see how this new team fits together. Can Klay still play at a high level two ways? Can he guard like he used to? His body's obviously getting older. He's had some really tough injuries that take their toll, but I'm just excited to see where they take it. Offensively, they're going to be fine. Defensively has always been the question.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have a problem scoring points, that's for sure. Let's go to the Spurs, though, and we're going to get to a bunch of teams on this show that we think are going to take the next step. And the Spurs are interesting, though, because if you just look at the impact Wemby had, this team, if you look at the numbers and the positive impact when he was on the floor, they might have been on pace to win 7-8 games last year. They get to 22, but now it's a massive step up to get into that play-in mix. Do you think that he can do that, again, with some of the additions the Spurs made, Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, some veteran presence?
I'm not sure if they can make that big of a jump. I do see a big jump for Victor this season. I mean, he put up 20 and 10 in his rookie year, but he's got a lot of opportunity for growth. Defensively, he's already elite, but can he become more efficient offensively? Does his shooting improve? I really like the addition of Chris Paul just to be able to facilitate, find him on lobs, find him in his spots. You know, Chris Paul being one of the great point guards of all time, how can he make things easier for Victor and in turn make things easier for everyone else?
Yeah, it was fascinating watching him last year because as much as selfishly you want to see him have the ball the entire 24 seconds of the shot clock, take every shot, having someone to just ease the physical burden for a guy that big as well is going to be key. And I think part of the other problem is when you look at the Western Conference, for them to get to the play-in mix, they would have to jump teams that weren't even there last year, like a Memphis team that we think is going to be healthy, and Houston as well. So the West is just so deep.
Yeah, it's stacked. It's going to be fun. It's going to be competitive. I think they could get around the mark for a playing game, but this is still a development year, I think, for Wemby. He's still got lots to learn. He's still figuring out how he can be effective with the ball, without the ball. There's moving pieces coming in and out, and I still see it as a year for them to develop before making the big jump next year.
Well, I am going to be very curious to see whether that man makes your top 5 for MVP. I don't know. The Spurs can win enough games to get him there, but you could make the case he could have been at least in the peripheral mix last year. Let's go to the OKC Thunder, though. I think they do have an MVP candidate. We know that with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Do you have any concerns for a team now that people expect can again be at the top of the West? But last year, they went from a team that was kind of on the periphery, one of those young teams like Houston, to all of a sudden right there, the number 1 seed. Do you have any concerns about year 2 for this team now with all the expectations they're going to be there again?
Not so much concern, but it obviously is a great point you make. It is one thing to be the underdog and the other to be the top dog with everyone chasing after you. But you love their additions. You think they won probably the off-season with bringing in Caruso, a defensive player to go along with SGA, and some of the lineups they're going to be able to create with SGA, Caruso, Dort, Williams. They've got a plethora of defensive lineups that they can go to. And don't forget about Chet. But the growth of Chet, the growth of Williams, the additions, on paper it looks like a more complete team, and they've been able to address some of the issues that plagued them during the postseason. Rebounding was a big one. And SGA continuing to round out his game. So I look forward to watching them, watching their growth. Let's see if they can handle that newfound pressure.
Yeah, Hartenstein, the player that comes in, because rebounding was a problem, then maybe Chet can play some minutes at the floor as well, so maybe lineup versatility, it just helps. The shooting was a concern that I did have for this team last year. They weren't a high-volume shooting team, and I think they got found out in that series against Dallas, and that was when Josh Giddey did go to the bench, but they still didn't find a replacement because you have Lou Dort in that lineup. He can hit threes, but he's not a knockdown guy, so when the defense really closes out in the postseason, they struggled. So maybe that's where the addition of Caruso still brings the defense, but is going to help because I think they need all the three-point shooting they can get.
They do, and in today's NBA, three-point line is king. If you shoot a high percentage and a high number, you're going to be pretty effective, and they've got all the other pieces to go along with it. So can Chet become more effective? Can Williams become more efficient from the outside? Can these other pieces find the easy shots to kind of keep the scoreboard ticking over and to create space for this guy to go to work, because he is electric, and I don't think there's anyone that can keep in front of him, and he plays at his own pace, and he's just fun to watch.
Yeah, in that series against Dallas, there was no problem with SGA. He averaged 32 points on 50, 55, 83 shooting splits. So SGA was fantastic. He needed some help along the way. The Thunder are going to be a team to watch this season. But we have got plenty more. We're just getting started on Nothing But Net, your NBA season preview. We're going to talk about some of the beasts in the East. The Boston Celtics, they'll be on the docket, as will the Sixers. Tim Bontemps joins us next.
Yeah, we heard it all. All the media reporters, saying that we couldn't play together, saying that we just didn't fit. They was, those were top stories. Those weren't quiet. Like, those were loud. They were very loud about it. And we win, and we don't throw it back in their face because that's just not how we are. I think we just handle everything with grace and class, but we don't forget anything, all these media supporters that maybe, trying to switch their takes or make excuses or whatever. But we were getting hit hard for a few years about this. We can't play together. That we'll never win a championship. We'll never do this. We're unfit to lead. People here in Boston and people abroad was all saying the same things, that break it up, split it up. And now look, thank God we didn't listen to those people, because now we got something we can cherish for the rest of our lives.
So it's fair to say that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum did hear all the noise through last season on the way to winning the title. This is Nothing But Net, your NBA season preview presented by Hungry Jacks. Kane, Pitman, Ryan Broekhoff, and now a man that we knew was going to be in arena, Tim Bontemps. The grind has started, or perhaps never even stopped. I want to ask you about the Boston Celtics, though, Tim, first. And they certainly seem like a team that is coming into this year, despite winning the title, that the chip is still firmly on the shoulder.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to describe them, Kane. I was with them Saturday and Sunday for their games against the Sixers and the Raptors, and the word from the Celtics is that they're ready to get the season started, and there is absolutely no championship hangover for this team. First couple days of training camp, Joe Mazzulla put these guys through their paces, try to make sure they got back and got started in the best way possible. And they've come out in this preseason, looked every bit the team that's ready to try to become the first team to repeat as champions since 27 and 18 Golden State Warriors. Now, obviously, they've got to stay healthy to the end to get there. We'll see what Kristaps Porzingis looks like when he gets back sometime in either December or January from this surgery he had on his foot back in the offseason. But the guys that are there look great. They're locked in. They're ready to go. And I think Boston's going to get off to a very good start if these first few preseason games are any indication.
Yeah, and you mentioned teams staying healthy, and that was the key for the other contenders in the East that couldn't do so in the postseason. So the Philadelphia 76ers bring in Paul George. Then we see a scare with the left knee hyperextension in preseason, though it sounds, Tim, like good news for the Philadelphia 76ers as far as it could be.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the story of the Sixers all season, Kane. We're going to see talk about injuries and guys missing time, and specifically Joel Embiid and Paul George throughout the year. Paul George had this bone bruise in his left leg. He suffered that hyperextension, as you mentioned, in Monday night's win over the Atlanta Hawks in Atlanta. Good news, though, for the Sixers. Like you said, the injury at the time when it happened looked like it could be a pretty serious thing. But for now, Sixers are going to evaluate him over the next few days, see how he feels, and then they'll make a decision on what his availability will be for next week's season opener at home on October 23rd against the Milwaukee Bucks. Obviously, it would be fun to see both Joel Embiid and Paul George out there in that game against Dame Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo and co. But Embiid has not played yet in the preseason, will not play in either of the final 2 preseason games for Philly as he ramps up his knee. And now Paul George will be out for at least the next couple of preseason games as he deals with his own issue in his left knee with this bone bruise he suffered last night.
So how do you see this working out between the 2 stars? Obviously, Embiid's come out saying he's not playing back-to-back games. Does this change anything, or is this just a slow, progressive way that they're going to do it throughout the season?
I mean, I think the thing to look at is to go back to what the Toronto Raptors did in the 2018-19 season with Kawhi Leonard. He played 60 games that year. He didn't play any back-to-backs. They managed him throughout the year, and then when they got to the playoffs, he was able to play 39 minutes a game, played 24 games, and delivered Toronto its first NBA title. The Sixers would love to have a scenario where they get Embiid through the season, playing 55, 60 games, have him get to the playoffs healthy for the first time in his career, and then let him ramp up and take off from there. That's what he and the Sixers are trying to do. That's why he's lost weight. That's why they're talking about these back-to-backs. It's why they went and got Andre Drummond and these other guys to have depth behind both Embiid and Paul George, to give them the ability to not have to play back-to-backs all the time. But it's one thing to say things like that. It's another thing to implement a plan like that in a very deep Eastern Conference. And we just saw it last year. Joel Embiid played 39 games, and the Sixers finished 7th, and we're in the play-in. The Sixers obviously do not want to be in the play-in, but they've got to balance the combination of trying to make sure they're right and ready for the playoffs and also dealing with seeding in what is going to be a very competitive top 8 in the East.
Tim, there's going to be plenty of contending teams in the Eastern Conference right throughout this season. You're going to cover it all for us here at ESPN.com.au. We look forward to chatting through the season. Thanks for the time, mate. Always great to catch up with Tim Bontemps, but the honeymoon period is over for Ryan Broekhoff. The touchscreen is coming out next. Rowdy gives us his top 5 MVP frontrunner. The return of the NBA means the return of buzzer beaters. And while Ryan really pushed hard for his buzzer beater for Valpo in the Horizon League semi-final win over Green Bay, I've been strictly instructed to stick to the NBA. Here are our Whoppers of the Week presented by Hungry Jacks. The burgers are better at Hungry Jacks.
2 to tie, 3 to win. 5.2 left. No timeouts left for the Bucks. Here comes Dame. 3 seconds. Dame pulls for the win. Dame time is alive and well in Milwaukee.
Cavs out of timeout. Spruce into Mobley. Back to Max. Half-court shot. Good! Good! He hit it! Cavs win!
Do you believe this?
This place is going crazy!
Kyrie Irving and a chance to win it. Looking in for Irving for the win. Oh my! A southpaw finish from Kyrie Irving.
Jokic has it. Clock ticks. Got to put one up. Jokic for the win. Oh! It's good! Jokic got it off in time, and the Nuggets win it.
It is fitting that we ended on Nikola Jokic there because we are about to talk MVPs. This is nothing but net, your NBA season preview presented by Hungry Jacks, Kane, Pitman, Ryan Broekhoff, and this is why we brought him to the studio, because we want him to start putting some opinions out there, so then the feedback will start to come. But here we go, top 5 MVP rankings. We've got some stars of the league in this list right here. You're going to start at number 5. Where are we starting?
We're going to start in Milwaukee with Giannis. Former MVP. I feel like Milwaukee is set to have a bounce back here. Damian Lillard is going to come in healthy and ready to go. He's still so dynamic in transition. There's no one that can keep in front of him in trans, puts so much pressure on the defense, and he's able to defend. So I expect a bounce back year, and statistically, I think he's going to be around the mark.
Yeah, he's already got a couple of MVPs, and you pointed to the teams knowing what he's going to do. He had 123 more field goal attempts than the second most in the league from within 5 feet, and was still 74% from the floor. So you've been there in scouts before, and when you know what a player's going to do, sometimes you can do something. That's not the case with Giannis. Where are we going for number 4?
All right, I had to make some changes because I had Joel Embiid, and then we got the news that he's going to be sitting out some games this year. So I've had to push some people up, but I'm going to go Anthony Edwards. Still young, still an emerging talent. I'm going to put him right here at number 4. But he's dynamic, he's fun, he's box office TV whenever he's on the floor. And I think there's going to be an improvement. There's no Cat now in Minnesota. He's the number 1 option. Can he take his game to the next level?
Yeah, and he would be 23 at the end of this season. So Derrick Rose, the youngest MVP of all time. Anthony Edwards is not too far away from that. And maybe, to your point, now they don't have Cat there, maybe there is an opportunity to pump up those stats a little bit. If they're in a top 2 or 3 seed, you expect he's going to be around the mark. And by the way, the Americans need an MVP. It's been a while for those guys. What about number 3? Where are we going?
Oh, we're going to go with Nikola Jokic. I mean,
okay.
I'd like to have him higher. I'm a little bit worried about Denver and how they're going to be this year and the load that he carries, but 3-time MVP, does it all, clutch. He's the most fun player to watch, I think, in the league. The way he can bring everyone into the game, his passing is second to none, his IQ is super high, and he just gets it done year after year. But I just worry whether Denver are going to be good enough, and with the West getting so much better, do they drop down the ranks?
Yeah, they're almost in the position now, this Nuggets team, where they might be really good and they want to contend for a title, but how good would they have to be for him to stand out? If he had a 4th MVP, he'd join LeBron and Wilt, so you're talking about 2 of the greatest of all time. Jokic is on the path, but a 4th MVP, that would be really challenging. Number 2.
I got to check my notes because I have debated and switched up and changed. It is so hard to split these 2, but I'm going to go Shea.
We don't need to worry about Paolo.
It's not Paolo, not yet. But I'm going to go Shea. Shea at number 2.
Okay.
He is an elite scorer. He can play both ends. Led the league in steals last season on defense, and they're an emerging team. You know, they surprised some teams last year, finishing the number 1 seed in the West, and they got so much better during the offseason on paper. I know we say the game's played on the court, but on paper you should see the emergence of Chet and Williams, and he's the head of the snake, and they're going to be right around contention. And if they are, he's up there in the MVP.
Yeah, they were a number 1 seed last year. I think most people expect them to be better. And even when they got eliminated in that series against Dallas, Shea was off the chart. So I understand why you would have him in the top 2. Who we got number 1 then? Still obviously some big names here.
There are some big names. I'm going to have to go with my guy from Dallas, Luka Doncic.
Oh, come on. I said we wanted some big opinions, and he's gone for the former teammate. This is ridiculous.
I had to. There's the only way I could split the 2, but talk about a dynamic player, an enormous talent, brings players into the game with his passing. They've filled out the roster with some more shooting, so they're going to be up there again, but no one dominates the ball just like he does, being able to get into the paint, the tough shots he hits. I don't think anyone's been able to stop that step back 3 since he's joined the league, but he's fun to watch and he brings everyone along with him. So if the Mavs are up there, my money's on Luka.
Yeah, and everyone's been waiting for a while. They've been in the postseason mix. They know he's a big game player, but they were waiting for them to take that step. They got to the finals last year, really finished the season strong. Where do you think, you have been around him, he's been a winner since a very, very young age. Where do you think the MVP sits in terms of what he's looking at this year? Because we know he's a killer.
I wouldn't think it's too high for him. I think if it comes along the way, he'll be very happy, but he's chasing championships. I think that's what players are most remembered for. Did you win a ring? So with how close they got last season and the additions of this season, they're going to have high expectations to go one step further and win a championship.
Yeah, the Western Conference absolutely stacked, as we've discussed right throughout the show, and will continue to do so. And the Mavs, maybe if they can get that home court and be a top seed, Luka Doncic will be there, because I think that's hurt him in the past. But direct your complaints to @Broekhoff45 on Twitter. Our man just putting his opinions out there. We appreciate. Mavericks at the top. We'll see what that means there. The NBA Nothing But Net season preview continues after this, and we're going to look at the Aussies, Josh Giddey, Dyson Daniels, Josh Green, and this man.
Hi, I'm Jock Landale of the Houston Rockets, and you're watching Nothing But Net.
I want to try, make everyone around me better. As a point guard, that's kind of my role on the team, and just to make guys' life easy. I want to bring, obviously, a winning brand here and play hard, do what I have to do to help our team win games. So we've got a lot of talent on this team, a lot of guys that can do a lot of things, which is a big luxury to have. So whatever my role is on any given night, I'm willing to do. But most importantly, just help this team win as many games as we can.
It's fantastic to get another Australian on board. And, he has a skill set that's team-first oriented, and that's always going to help teams be better, and so I was pretty excited.
Josh has got an unbelievable skill to pass the basketball. A lot of guys enjoy playing with him because he's a pass-first player. But I do think that he can help us play with really good pace and tempo and really push the ball for us. And he's a great advanced passer up the floor, and he's also a tremendous passer in the half court.
Josh Giddey certainly looking to be a big part of a Chicago Bulls team that's looking to take a few steps forward this season. This is Nothing But Net NBA season preview brought to you by Hungry Jacks. Kane, Pitman and Ryan Broekhoff is here, and we're going to talk about some of the Aussies in the league. So we've got our own resident boomer, Olympian, NBA player to detail what the season looks like for some of these guys. We're going to start with Josh Giddey. So the trade in the offseason, the 1-for-1, Alex Caruso goes to OKC, and it does feel like a win-win. But if we just purely look at it from the Chicago Bulls standpoint, they've got a young 22-year-old potential point guard for the future for a 30-year-old role player. These franchises are in different spots, but it feels like a nice opportunity for Chicago.
Yeah, and it's something we forget about how young he is. He's already been in the league multiple years, youngest player to record a triple-double. He has a skill set that I think Chicago needs. They need someone to control the ball, set things up, make things easier for players like Zach LaVine, try and make them more efficient offensively, but his ability to run in transition, find people, create off the dribble is kind of that missing piece, hopefully, that unlocks the Chicago offense.
Yeah, we've already seen in preseason a little bit some of these highlights we're watching here, whether it is those pull-up transition threes. And for Josh Giddey, it feels like such a confidence game. We saw that in the Olympics when all of a sudden he wasn't just standing in the corner. He was given the keys and understood that he was going to run the offense. It makes a big difference. So I guess the question for Chicago is Kobe White, Dosunmu's there, LaVine, you already mentioned, is there as well, and maybe now Lonzo Ball playing minutes. So there might still be a battle, but it feels like Chicago would be beneficial to give him the keys a little bit here.
Yeah, and it suits his game more. He's hasn't quite developed that spot shot to be really effective, and what he was doing in OKC wasn't playing to those strengths. So now he should have the ball in his hands a lot more. Now he can facilitate for others, play his natural game and unlock things. And look, if it's a battle, that brings out the competition that usually improves players. If you're battling for spots, you're battling for your minutes on the court, you're going to produce not just on the court in the games, but in practice and pushing each other each day in practice, which is what the Bulls need.
Yeah, and a potential extension for Josh Giddey this season as well. So it is an important year for him to take steps. And another team that potentially could make steps would be the Houston Rockets. We caught up with Jock Landale at Media Day to figure out what exactly would be success for this Houston team.
I think success this season for us as the Rockets definitely comes from a place of making the playoffs, and now that our young guys have kind of been in and amongst the mix for a year, maybe 2, 3, whatever it might be, it's time for results. Early on last year, I feel as though we were still figuring it out under a new coaching staff, but now we have some continuity, kind of know what we're about and what the image of the Houston Rockets is going to be going forward. It's definitely about putting it all together and seeing some results this season.
Yeah, Jock Landale used the word continuity there, Ryan, and it's fascinating because he hasn't had a lot of that across his NBA career either. If you think about the moves he's had along the way, San Antonio, Phoenix, now Houston, but he really found health and found some consistent play in the back end of last year that he'll be looking to carry through this year.
Yeah, he definitely found some form and found how he can impact the game. Obviously, Sengun was injured towards the end of the season, which opened up some minutes, but he was able to show what he can bring, being able to stretch the 4 out of the 5 position. He runs offensively really hard, puts his head on the rim, and does all the little things. He'll get after the rebounds, he'll dive on loose balls, and hopefully can take some of that form with the Boomers and the Olympics into his season.
Yeah, and you understand how important the three-point shot is in the NBA. Also, after the All-Star break, 36% from 3 there for Houston as well. But, for basketball fans from our part of the world, they might also be interested in Steven Adams. No, he's not Australian. We had to let some American journalists know that he is not. He's in fact from New Zealand, but he hasn't played basketball since the 2023 season. And in that year, he was highly impactful for a Memphis Grizzlies team. Hopefully he can be healthy. Hopefully he can play. But if he is, he might be in a battle for some of those backup minutes with Jock.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle, and that's not a player you want to be battling against in the post. He's a big, strong man, but it's great to see him hopefully get back on the court after a bad run of injuries. And look, he's more of the interior enforcer, the vet presence. He'll find some minutes if he's healthy, offering some experience to a young team that's still growing and developing. So whether it's him or Jock, I think they feel different needs. So it just depends on matchups and on game script.
And for the Rockets, they'll be hoping that everyone is healthy down the line, but also whether it is Jock or it is Steven Adams, they are paid a decent salary for later on in the year as well. So potentially there's some flexibility there for the Houston Rockets. But as Landale said, hopefully they'll make the playoffs. I think a team that I'm really fascinated about this year because I have no idea where they sit, and that's the Atlanta Hawks. And Dyson Daniels, another Aussie that's been in the move in the offseason, and that was in that big trade. DeJounte Murray goes to New Orleans. But just from what we saw at the Olympics with Dyson, I think this is a great opportunity for him to have a role that he knows night to night he's going to be playing minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And he brings incredible level of defense to the game, and opposite Trey, he sort of fills that role. He's able to penetrate. He's got some point guard skills to him, but this is just a chance for him to play. Hopefully find some continuity, finds the health, and builds off the summer with the Olympics. But that three-point shot is sort of the key to unlocking him. If he can hit that at a consistent basis, as well as a defensive end and a little bit of creation, he'll find plenty of minutes.
Yeah, and just from the player's perspective, and we can look at this at the Olympics, you've been there, and perhaps what confidence you can take from a strong FIBA tournament. But then the second part, it looked really challenging from the outside in New Orleans. Maybe the minutes were going to be there. We really desperately need you to knock down the corner three, and it just felt like he didn't have the freedom night to night to understand what's coming. You've been there in the NBA as well. What does that do to a player's confidence?
It's tough. It's tough whether you're a high draft pick like he was, or if you're a free agent pickup like me who sits on the bench. But if you're on the bench and unsure of what your role is going to be, how much you're going to play, what night to night looks like, it's hard to build any confidence in yourself, and especially shooting from outside. That is a rhythm part of the game. So if you're sitting for long periods and then you come on and your minutes are sort of dictated by whether you make or miss this shot, it's a lot of pressure. And for a young player like him, we forget how young he still is. It's hard to find that rhythm and that success early in your career. So hopefully this fresh start it kind of rejuvenates him.
Yeah, and in the preseason, Trae Young did say, I see one of the best defenders in the league. So we'll see where the Hawks sit, but certainly Dyson Daniels should have a big role. And we see now some of the other Australians across the league, and Patty Mills has got a new home in Utah, and Johnny Furphy, we know, the draftee going to Indiana, Joe Ingles in Minnesota. The Trailblazers duo we have there, and some other names that we're happy to see there on a list, Luke Travers, Jack McVeigh, and Alex Dukas. So basically, wherever you look in the NBA, you're going to have an Aussie to keep an eye on right throughout the season. But coming up next, some names and faces that are very familiar to basketball fans. LeBron, Steph, and KD. Brian Windhorst is going to give us the latest on this legendary trio.
Well, for me, I'm not going to be around to say the franchise. I'm going to be around for hopefully 10 to 15 years.
10 years, I want to be known as a guy that played the game the right way.
Curry, crossover, steps back, three-pointer, it's good!
How do you slow him down?
Same way you slow me down.
James on the throwdown!
You can't.
Oh, blocked by James!
Our careers are connected because we played at the highest level.
LeBron James is now the all-time leading scorer.
The greatest shooter the game has ever seen.
Every year that we get to do this, it's insane.
Oh, we keep doing this, bro. Oh,
The Nothing But Net NBA season preview presented by Hungry Jacks continues. Kane, Pitman and Ryan Broekhoff here in studio. And we just saw some of the greats, LeBron and Steph Curry. And now we bring in one of our greats, Brian Windhorst, and a man that has travelled all over the world. Windy, have you had a chance to have a break at all, my friend?
A little bit, but I'll tell you, this summer was such a special summer. I do think the Olympic basketball tournament was the highest level international event for basketball we've ever seen. It lived up to the billing, some great performances, and right on down to Steph Curry clinching the gold medal for the Americans in a moment that LeBron James compared to a Game 7, which he's played in some huge Game 7s in his career. So I think that said a lot about this summer, and I was glad to be able to be a part of that.
Yeah, it was awesome indeed. And you mentioned LeBron James and Steph Curry. We just saw some of the highlights over the years of this legendary duo. And the timing to have you on this show is perfect because we just got to quote a story, Dave McMenamin on ESPN.com.au. And LeBron was asked about the idea of whether he would ever be a teammate of Steph Curry again. And he said, I have no idea. Now, Windy, you know LeBron well, and this is a man that says things with purpose, and he always knows what he's talking about. What have you made of this entire summer for LeBron and where he sits right now?
Well, obviously, out of everything LeBron has experienced in his career, playing on the same team as Steph Curry was not one of them. And so that was a completely new experience for him. And to be there when Steph had some great moments. He didn't have, from front to back, maybe his best Olympics that he would have wanted, but certainly he had delivered in the key times. And then LeBron won MVP. They were basically the 1-2 punch along with Kevin Durant. And so that was a great experience for him. And I'll just remind you guys that last February, the Golden State Warriors called the Lakers about trading for LeBron James. And they did that because they thought there was a possibility that LeBron would consider wanting to come up to Golden State. Now, it didn't happen, and LeBron has subsequently signed a new contract with the Lakers with a no-trade clause in it. But there was a reason why they asked, and there was a reason why LeBron didn't completely rule it out. I don't think it's on the front burner, but I don't think that we should forget that that trade call happened or the way this summer went with LeBron, Steve Kerr, and Steph Curry.
Yeah, it'd be amazing to see those two on the same squad. I don't think it's going to happen, but we can always wish. But getting away from the individuals, now looking at the teams, which of the two teams do you think is going to have a better year this year?
Yeah, it's a great question because neither of them are really at the level that they want to be with LeBron and Steph Curry still playing all NBA basketball. I think if you look at the Warriors, the one thing that they have going for them is they're very deep. You know, they've lost some star power on this roster by losing Klay Thompson, but they're 13 players deep. Steve Kerr was telling me this, that he feels like there's 13 different guys he could put out there. He's not going to be able to play 13, obviously. It's going to take some time to find that rotation, but they can go to a lot of different gears. They can play with a lot of different style of lineups. And I think what it also reminds you is that they could still be a trade partner for somebody in this season, using some of these pieces and some of the draft picks that they have. The Lakers aren't holding the same hand. They're not as deep, and they have less trade assets, but they do have LeBron and Anthony Davis, two guys who are playing at an all-NBA level. So I think both of these teams will be dangerous, but I don't think either of them is currently constituted are real contenders.
Yeah, it feels like that's the position they're in, Windy, and both of those teams sort of from the mid-40s to high 40s in wins last year. They were good, but they weren't quite up there with the top in the West. I want to talk about Phoenix as well because now this is year two of Durant and Beal and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant specifically. Last year, he played 75 games. He shot 52, 41, 85. He was unbelievable. What are we hearing out of the Phoenix camp in terms of how they can take the next step, which was the design when they put this team together?
Well, if you remember last year, they had a point guard by committee. And what I would say is if you have a point guard committee, you don't have a point guard. And so they tried to sort of cheat the rules of basketball last year, and it blew up in their face. They were one of the poorest performing fourth quarter teams in the history, the modern history at least, of the game. And so they still won 49 games despite really being inefficient with that. So they went out this offseason and they got two quality point guards. Tyus Jones was one of the biggest surprise signings of the summer, getting him on a minimum contract. And they're going to hope that you're going to be able to get a much more efficient product. They also need health from Bradley Beal. I would be surprised if Durant is as healthy as he is again, but it doesn't matter. They can't reach their prime unless all three of their guys are out there. They didn't get much time with all three of those guys out there last year. So they're hoping that the new point guard and some health for all three of them, including Bradley Beal, will change their fortunes. I think they're a dangerous team if that happens.
So what do you expect their ceiling to be? As you said, they've got the big three. They're one of the few last teams to have the so-called big three left. If this fails, is the big three era done?
Well, the Big Three era is under threat right now because of the new rules that are happening with the CBA, with the first and second apron, and they've really tried to legislate it out. The Suns might be the last team that was sort of dodging those rules. But I think if you look at the Western Conference, you sort of have three teams that sort of stand above everybody else: Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and Denver. I think Dallas is right there too. Maybe four teams that stand out amongst everybody. And then there's sort of this conglomeration of 5 to 7 teams between teams like 5 and 12. And if you're the Suns, you want to break away from that group. You want to show that you're not, close to the Lakers. You're not close to the Warriors. You're not close to a team like the Rockets that's trying to rise up. You're not close to the Memphis Grizzlies. You're not close to the New Orleans Pelicans. That you're better than all those teams. You want to join that group fighting for home court in the first round. And I think if they get good point guard play and health, they can be a dynamic offense that can do that.
Yeah, we saw right through the summer and during the Olympics that the older superstars of the league still have something left in the tank, but that is a stacked Western Conference. Windy, really appreciate the time as always.
Thanks, guys.
Plenty more coming up on Nothing But Net, our NBA season preview, and we have Superlatives coming up next. Ryan Broekhoff is going to be under pressure. The player with most to prove, rookie most likely to succeed. We've got that and more.
To get to this point with JT,
to be able to say we did it, we came together and we won a championship.
I love you, bro.
and that was the most important thing.
Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, doing it together, doing it as one, it makes it so much sweeter.
How many years was it relentless? Break them up. They can't play together. That is laid to rest.
They have become a dynamic duo and ready to be a championship duo. It's over. Banner number 18 has been secured. The Celtics are NBA champions. We did it!
And I share this with my partner in crime, Jason Tatum. He was with me the whole way.
But the beauty of being in this position is that the Boston Celtics now have to go and try and do it again and be the first NBA team for quite a while to go back-to-back. This is nothing but your NBA season preview presented by Hungry Jacks. Kane, Pitman and Ryan Broekhoff here. And we're going to finish off with a little game we've created, and it is the season preview superlatives, and it's pretty simple. I give Ryan a question. He gives me a player for that question or team. And we're going to start with the player with the most to prove this season, Ryan.
Yeah, there was a few options. Embiid was one that came to mind, even Damian Lillard after his poor season. But I wanted to give an Australian flair to it. So it's on Ben Simmons. He's had the rough exit from Philly, the injury drama, and let's not forget about him not wanting to attack the rim to shoot free throws. So he's in a contract year, still only 28, in the prime of his basketball career. Healthy now, can he put it back on the court and deliver on the promise?
There is two aspects to this, and you hit on them both, which is what we'd love to see. You're always very comfortable on this show at an early stage, Ryan, but it is the contract, and then it is also the health. Now, clearly they tie in together, but we saw Ben Simmons at the start of last year say that he was feeling good, feeling healthy, back playing basketball, and he did not look like the physical, athletic beast that we've seen in the past. There's been some decent early signs, but I think a lot of people are curious about contract year Ben Simmons and if all of a sudden he's going to be back out there playing 60 games and looking like his old self.
Well, we hope so. I mean, from the talent perspective, 6'10" point guard with amazing vision. Him in the open court is as good as anyone. And elite defensively. Can he get back to those two simple things? The shot, we've seen it year after year, the videos in the off-season, but it is a time. Brooklyn are not projected to do very well. Let him shoot the ball, and he should have the confidence in himself to be able to shoot those shots, shoot some threes, attack the rim, get back to the free throw line and put some of those demons to bed.
Yeah, it's interesting. The pressure point is a good one because you think from Philadelphia and even those early days in Brooklyn, this was a team that people always expected was going to win. That is not the case this year. Maybe that benefits Ben Simmons. All right, the rookie class, and clearly from an NBL perspective, we had a close eye on guys like Alex Sarr and AJ Johnson, maybe a surprise going to the Milwaukee Bucks. Who is the rookie most likely to succeed?
I've gone with Reed Shepherd, and it's basically on what the NBA is now and its ability, who can shoot the three. And he does it better than anyone in the draft class. He's found a home where he can play from the beginning. They're a young up-and-coming team, but he's looked good during training camp. He's looked good during the preseason. The word is that they're all happy with how he's developing, and he has the tools and physical abilities to be able to perform in this league.
Yeah, interesting coming to a team, as you pointed to, that is hoping to make the postseason. So the expectations are a little bit different to some of the other rookies in the class, like that guy, Alex Sarr, I mentioned with the Washington Wizards, who knows how many games that team is going to win. Okay, now, this one is subjective, and I am curious which way you go here. The most fun player to watch?
Nikola Jokic.
Okay, I like it.
I'm a basketball purist at heart. I love the way he plays the game. I love the way he brings his teammates in, his ability to pass, score, create, and move for such a big fella. So he's my favourite to watch. I love the way he impacts winning, and I look forward to seeing what he does this year with, a very similar team, a very comfortable team. Can he lift them up again?
Yeah, interesting. Ryan Broekhoff, basketball purist, and he picked the guy most fun player to watch that goes off the wrong leg, just flinging the ball at the rim there as well. Okay, let's go to the teams now. Team most likely to win the East.
It's got to be the Boston Celtics.
Going out on a limb, we like to see that.
I know. But look, they're settled. They're settled from last season. They've brought the roster back. They've got two dynamic superstars. They've got the pieces around. So I see it being a little bit more highly contested, but I still see them as the best team, the team to beat.
All right, now we can move across to the Western Conference team most likely to win the West. Why is it the Dallas Mavericks, Ryan Broekhoff?
Finally going against the Mavs.
Okay.
I've gone OKC. I think last year we saw some of that potential and some of the new additions that they've made really fills out the roster. You've got SGA, who should be playing at an MVP level again. You know, I see the pieces coming together and them being at the top of the standings in what is a stacked Western Conference.
It is a stacked Western Conference. That would be a really fun NBA Finals matchup if that's the way it pans out. And you're off the hook ahead. Next, active Aussie most likely to win an NBA title. We don't have time for that. That's going to do it for our Nothing But Net NBA season preview. Ryan Broekhoff was outstanding, as were Brian Windhorst and Tim Bontemps. You know where to watch your NBA. ESPN, your home for hoops.